Hello, Gordon here at Klippa Service in Sweden. Now I'm back again with another video, and this time I'm going to show you some new things that makes these old motors for Husqvarna and Gardena robotic mowers better than when they were new. The main issue with these motors is every motor is breaking down sooner or later. This is because of the wheel bearing and grease in the motors. So I have come up with a solution for not buying new motors. You can repair your own motors and with upgrade parts, aftermarket parts that I myself have been created. You can do the upgrade so that the motor is better than new and comparable or better than the Husqvarna own improved motor that came some years ago. So this is basically a longer wheel axle and a bigger distance between the bearings, because this originally it's very tight between the bearings, and that makes the axle wear. It wobbles a little bit because it's a little bit of play, and the play gets bigger and bigger for each hour. So eventually after 5,000 hours you can start counting on that it will break if it's this old motor, and the gear gets worn out, but it's a combination of bad grease and this bad bearing together. So but it could be repaired. I have my old video shows how to do it with the old worn axle and with Loctite to fill the gap between the worn axle and the new bearing. But in this video I will show this new stuff. It's new axle and new bearing holder. So it's like an adapter, so the motor gets a little bit longer, but it's inside of the machine, so it should be clear from the battery holder. So it shouldn't be any problems, but I'll show you how to do this here in the video. I'm really proud of this. I do this myself. I have an engineering background, so I use my knowledge. I've always been fixing stuff from when I was small, and I always take the hard way, so I don't do it easy for me. But you learn, and I have developed this kit, so the wheel bearing is much better. So shouldn't be an issue if you do this and the gears are fine. Then it should be lasting for like a lifetime. So I'll show you how to do. And I also have one new thing is this shaft seal. The original one is it's not much material in it. It's I don't know, it's like a dust seal with one lip, and this is more like an oil seal with double seal. So it's I have a double seal from the environment. So this should make the hold the most moist out of the motors too. But this is really special dimensions on this one. So Husqvarna has like a 15.5 millimeter outside diameter seal, and it's not a standard, so I had to order them myself. So I have this in my shop and have most things, and if I don't have it, you can always ask, send an email, something like that, and I can see if you have some good suggestions. I'm always open for new ideas. I always have something in my mind, but if you have some good things that you see, this maybe you can do, and I can try to do it. And also have this gears. It's also a gear inside the motor. It's the planetary gears that spins around this sun gear in the middle. This always get worn out, and sometimes this causes these original gears to break a tooth. So then it's you have to change them. But otherwise, many times you can reuse it. But I will have in the shop coming, not really yet. I have some, but I will have plenty in the coming nearest time. So some new stuff. and I'll show you what you need. Here we have some tools. I have everything I think is needed. You can do it in many ways. This is one way to do it, but you have to be creative and think yourself. You find you don't have to have exactly this, but something similar that can do the same things. And I have some. Here is a hex 5mm. I like this because it's. I'll show you later how to do it, what I do with it. And I have this for this Allen screws for holding this together with the plastic. We have this 3mm hex, and I have for these small screws on the sides of the motor. We changed these Phillips screws to T10 Torx screws, much better, much more easy to do maintenance afterwards. And I always have stuff, and if something breaks, I will have it in the future. So it's a long-lasting, good solution. Not only throw things away and buying new. I don't really like that thinking. And here is a 8mm socket for pressing in stuff. I'll show you later. And here we have I think it's a 2.5mm hex. I can check later. And we have a PH1 and PH2 bits. And this is old worn out T20 Torx, just for punching out the middle gear. I'll show you later. It could be a small bolt or something, but this is really stiff because it's a small thing here and a big here, so it's really stiff in the middle, so it's always good. And I have an old cutting blade. Can't use that for so much, but I'll show you to clean the inside of this ring gear. It's called, this portion of the gearbox that's outside of the planetary gears. Scissors, could be a screwdriver, but I have a Torx. It's good to punch out the bearings without special tools. Screwdrivers for taking off the clip and cleaning the gears. To make it easier to take away some screws, I have this really low quality budget screw machine, but it does the work. It's not so strong, but I don't need it. I used my hands, but it's only like an aid. You could use a bigger screw, like a drill, electric drill or something. That's no problem. And I have two old caps for brake cleaning. So I use it to take this white spirit to clean the gears. I only take a small portion of it in the bottom, and I pull the lady gears inside and let it to take away the grease. So you can, when it's worked, you can always fill over a little bit here. And I'll show you how I can do it. Then you're guaranteed you don't break these long bolts inside. It can happen sometimes, but I'll show you how to do it with the gas. Maybe you can do like an ordinary lighter if you do it long enough, I think, or something like that. I'll show you. Loctite is always good. This is a medium strong Loctite for thread locking. Could be another brand, I don't care, but always I'll show you how to do it. Some brake cleaner. I bought this refillable. I think could be nice. I always have this home, so you can only fill it with some air. Yeah, I think some gloves is always good to have because it's getting messy, especially when cleaning the gears. Otherwise, I don't like to have gloves, but you're different. You have to have a vise. You have to have, maybe you could do it with a hammer or something, but it's not controlled. It's really easy to damage things. So a vise, it's good to have. And this is a ball joint separator tool. to take away the hub. So it's really tempting, and a hammer, of course, it's good to have. I'm just checking here that the camera is working because I'm doing this myself. I don't have any people hanging around doing this checking stuff for me, so I do as good as I can. I hope it's good enough, because I can't do anything else. But I gotten a lot of feedback that you like my thinking and how I do it, but it's a little bit amateur style. But I'm not an expert in this, so you have to bear with that. Now the motor is out of the machine. Last time I showed you how to do it in the machine. Then you can leave the motor inside the Automower. Then you can do drag it, pull it out, and you have to hammer on these screws to get them loose. But the best thing is to split the machine in half. Then you have more control of what you do. Then you know the cables is long. You don't have to. The cables don't get stuck in anything or something like that. But best thing to separate this is many people like to do this first, take away this, but I'll show you how I will do this. So it's always good to place the motor here on the table. It's good to do it in a stiff place near a leg on the table, because then the last step will be, this step will be a little bit easier. To get this out easily, I always do like this. I put a bit in. Everybody can buy bits, and you hammer it a little bit. But I take my other PH1 here because I like it. You can use like this machine if you like, but it's always good to lay your weight on the screws, and then you turn, and there is no problems. If you don't hammer on it, it's really easy that you slip, and then you have a lot of big problems. If you maybe it could be that you could heat it a little bit also, but it's near the motor, electric motor, so it's not the best, I think. And if you start to slip, abort and you take the next screw, because if you have one that's semi-rounded, it's better to take it at the last of all the four, because it's much easier when the other three is gone. So PH1, and I think it's always succeeding when you do like this, because this can be really hard to drill out, and you don't want to have more work than you really need. So and if you have electric machines, it's really easy to strip these heads when you have a problem. So manual is always good when you have the feeling. Maybe you don't have to hammer 2 times, but I think it feels good. And this motor is really bad. The bearing is really bad, and I took this as a really bad example. So we check how it looks. Now it's time to separate this. It's really black. There you see the for planetary gears in the first stage. That is helix shaped. They used to be in these bigger machines. It's 99%. They are okay. They can be. Don't look that like they have so much gears on them, but it's almost never an issue, because it's plastic gears, and it's like self-lubricated, like I think it's like a nylon material, so it doesn't need to have so much gear to work. Sometimes, mostly in 450 and 450s, they can wear out a little bit in the center, but I guess it's because the 450 is running in a faster speed, then it's more load on them, more heat or something. But most cases on 452 it's no problem. But if you have some corrosion coming in through the seal, they can go bad because it can be rust and it's it's abrasive. Yep, and then you can take out the gear. I think you can do like this. So here everything comes. And here is the really bad parts. Always it's always really worn. Yeah, I can't see so much, but it's nothing on it. It's a big difference in diameter. You can see it. So it's totally stripped, and it's because the grease is really bad, and the misalignment between the four big gears inside here. It's working like a grinding machine, so to say. So that's my theory. And I've tested a lot on my own machines and stuff like that, and I have a 430 running like 6,000 hours now with my gears, and I have taken away with new bearings and a stiffer installation. It works good, but to make it really good, it's the longer shaft is the best options. So now it's really tempted to take out this, but it could be sometimes the bolt shears off when you try to take it out. Sometimes the head you get it round and you have to drill it out. Could be done. That's no problem. But the problem is if it breaks down here in the aluminium part. And this we are going to reuse now, so I want it to be 100%. So now I don't do this. I go this way. I don't have the wheel nut, but I have another M18 nut, so I do this nut to the bottom of the thread because it's strongest like that. So you don't take only some turns, and then you strip the threads. It's not so good. And I use M6 by 20. It's on the shorter side. Could be a little bit longer, but it doesn't bend, so it's good. And I take this this standard ball joint puller from the local Swedish auto warehouse, and this it's a really good solution, really easy. You can reuse it. You can use it on your car if you have to change some joints. I'd always do it because I like it, but I guess you people doing this, maybe you can have use for it afterwards. Otherwise you could weld. I can show you. If you have a weld machine, you can take an M16 bolt and M6 nut, weld them together. Then you have a pressing tool, so to say. But I've used mine so many times, so now it's round. So it's I've stripped the threads, but I've done some motors. So this always works strong, good for other things. But you can do it if you can't find this. You can do this. You can do many different ways. You can have a long M16 thread and M16 bolt and a little M6 short M6 in the middle, and use that to press it out. And you can put it in the vise and only push it out with a metal thing in the middle with a hammer. But this is much better. It's controlled. You know what you do. Then I'll try one tool I haven't done yet. Is this. So it's really working good. This, I think. I've most people fix this. I have at least many people don't admit they can't do it, because I've sold a couple of not so few kits, and I almost never get any feedback that it didn't work at all. This is shit. Most people really like it, and yeah, it's really good. I think really like that people like it. Here's the bolts to take away this plastic part. This is most times sitting really hard. Now it's people maybe want to put it here in the vise, you know, and then you do like this and it cracks. So never push hard on this. It's better to do it like this, I think. I'll try. Maybe I fail, but I have this. These are exaggerated. They have a lot of Loctite on them. It's too much Loctite. Someone had too much in the factory in all these motors, so it's really a lot of Loctite. So it's really hard sitting. Yeah. So it's good to have this, because you get a little bit stronger. You don't have to do all the work. If you have an ordinary screwdriver, you have to be really strong. I have this this type of screwdriver with you get really strong too. It's really good. But I used it to help me a little bit. But this is not so strong, so it doesn't strip the heads or something. So it's a good size for this type of job. So I have to help it a little bit, otherwise it's too weak. But for this work, it's really good. So now this is gone. This we throw away. We take the new ones, because it's in the kit for the improved bearing solution. But this axle is really worn out. It's the shaft seal is it's disintegrated. It's nothing left on it. Yeah, it's not looking good, this one. It's really bad. Yeah, you can see. So the gear seems good, but as I said, now to take this apart, I will going to use some heat, because I have to heat the threads here. The threads are here in aluminium, so I'm going to heat it a little bit to make it a little bit easier. Take away. You don't have to do this, but it's a safer thing to do. Then you know it's no problems. And you only heat exactly where the threads are for a while. And Loctite disintegrate at like 120 degrees Celsius, so shouldn't be needed so much to do it. This small type of burners could be bought in many places. This is a little weak, this one. Could be a better gas bottle or something, but should work anyway. Otherwise, the method that it works good is to hit the screws with the screwdriver. So that's good. That should be enough. Now I push the shaft here to the vice bottom. Then you can hammer on it. Yeah, it's pretty easy. We have put some heat on it. Yeah, now you know how I mean, but now I think I'm going to cheat a little bit. I hope it goes good. This screwdriver is really good because it's metal all to the end, so it's really stiff, so it gives a good impact on the screws. Normal screwdrivers is not like that, so it's better to have a bits and give it a whack if you don't have this type of screwdriver. Always push hard down, so you don't have the big risk of stripping out the heads of the bolts. So safest is to heat, but a little bit more heat than I used maybe. But it's only a matter of principle how you take, in what order you take it away, and then otherwise could be that you break this plastic motor mount. It's not good. Then you have to source a new one, and we have to try to use what we have. Now you can take this out of the first stage ring gear. Always need some cleaning. So I give it some soak in this white spirit. It's I think it's the best. Maybe not the best for your hands, but it's good to clean the gears and the washers. It works really good. And here is the, can you see this? It's all the satellite gears for the second stage of the gearbox. Seems pretty good because it was really bad, but this looks like it could be reusable. Most times it's good. Sometimes the holes gets a little bit big, but then I have new gears now too, and I will have plenty later, because if you want it, it should be available. So everything could be fixed. Yeah. And here is the grease. It's really black, and yeah, it's more like wax. Not doing any good work. Here is the shaft. The bearings is not the best shape. So can take a little bit more of this. I hope you like it, my little show here. It's I don't have so much time, so it must work first time. I have plenty other things to do, so I hope you're happy, and I hope the camera works, or the telephone in my case. Here is C-clips. This or not C-clips, I don't know what it's called. It's a clip in shaft clip. This can be reusable. I think it has popped out by itself, really, but it should be in a groove here, but we can reuse it. And if you don't have any pliers for that, I only use like a screwdriver to take it out. It's really easy. In my other film it was more more good motor. This is really bad, so it just jumped out by itself. So, but the shaft seal is really not the best design from the factory. It's really little lip. I can't say that I know better, but seems that it's really bad. It's not meant to be lasting like a long lifetime, but it's cheap, maybe, I don't know. I can see if I find an original that's better. This is completely destroyed, so it's not so I can't even hardly see it, but it's really not much material compared to my new seals. Yes, now we have the clip away too, and we soak the things in white spirit so we can get clean. Now this is really rusted bearing. You can see it's completely gone, and the shaft is really worn too, because it has. I didn't have to push it out. Normally you have to hammer on the shaft to get it out of this in the vise, but now this was really loose, and so this is some tenths of millimeters smaller in where the bearing has been than normal, and this wears out the shaft seal, and then water comes in and gets worse. Yeah, now we have to try to knock these bearings out. It's 2 bearings, but it's separated in the middle here of the aluminium piece. It's a clip to separate them, to have them in the right so they don't go through, so it holds in the middle. But to take this out, this can be now when this is so bad, it could all the balls couldn't be flying, but we try to push it out. We'll see what happens. Now I use the vise. It's really good to do this, and I can put this like so, and then you put this screwdriver or torques a little bit sideways, and you can knock the bearings out in many pieces. Now I only got the inner race. The outer race is still sitting here, so we have to take that away, but shouldn't be any problems. I think this is a little bit more problematic than normally, but yeah, but it shouldn't be any big problems. I have to clean it out a little bit, take away massively rusty balls everywhere. This normally goes really smooth. A little bit harder when you can't push in the middle, but it's no big issue. Now I can access the outer. Now it's really free in the hole. It's only the outer race, and you can see this C-clips ears in the middle. So don't try to push both bearings out one way, because then you will harm this aluminium piece. The aluminium piece we want to reuse in this case, because my thinking was, why not use what we have to get the smartest and good price range thing. Now we have one outer race for bearing. I could have made a completely new part here, but it's a little bit complicated to do. We have to use CNC machine and stuff like that. So this was the smartest thing I could think about when I did it, and seems I am pretty happy with the design. I hope you like how it turns out. But you see, it's a pretty good design. But it's always good to have some guidance. I hope I can do it in a good way here. It's really new for me too. I'm only done it sometimes, so I hope you like it, and I hope we can do good things together. So now it's out, everything, and now you see the clips in here. So no special tools. I really like to do it simple, not like advanced expensive tools. It should be easy to fix it with things that most people have that's a little bit interesting in DIY at home. So now I'm only cleaning this up a little bit. This we use again because it's the best thing I could think about. And so this side towards the motor, that's a little bit machined. It's a glossy side. On this side we put a new bearing in. Normally on my normal kits, the older kits that have been working really good, then you use two similar bearings like the standard bearings, and then you take the old shaft. This shaft is pretty worn, so maybe it's not the best to. Sometimes you can cheat with the most times it works with the Loctite between the bearings and this surface to fill the gap, but in this particular motor it's really worn. So for this, and if you want a really good and a long lasting solution, I think this is the best way to do it. And also Husqvarna has done this, but you have to buy a whole new motor. My axle is actually a little bit longer than their new improved motor, so should be even more sturdy than their solution. The difference I haven't made yet is these grooves on the end. Maybe you can't see. It's some pressings on the end here. I haven't done a tool for that yet, so the method right now is to have Loctite on this surface to get a little bit more grip. And I have done this a little bit bigger too, so it's a better grip on the hub. But I've looked at the old motors in the old 230 ACX and stuff like that. They don't have longer grip, and they don't have this at all. And all, the older 330s have also don't have this groove on the Dunker Motoren brand motors. So I'm pretty sure it shouldn't be any problem. So, but we'll take some Loctite here. Could be that it's not needed, but better safe than sorry. And production wise, I understand I don't want to have a Loctite, but for us amateurs, we can do what we like. Some chemicals we have to use on threads anyway. So yeah, so this is the difference in length, and I can show you here. We'll take some new bearings. This is basically how close the bearings sit on the normal original motor. Can you see it? On the new ones I made now, that's a little bit longer than the Husqvarna ones. Then you can see the difference between the distance of the bearings. So this makes a lot of difference in in the bearing durability and the stiffness of the bearing. You don't have the play. But this problem with this is that it wiggles a little bit. It can wiggle in the. It's a small. It's 200ths of a millimeters smaller axle than the bearings. So this does that. This wiggle effect gets worse and worse over time, and then eventually this starts going like this inside the gearbox, and then it shatters. So this is a much better, stronger solution. And this the new Husqvarna motors has double this bigger bearing, but to keep cost down, I thought, why not have a smaller bearing inside? It doesn't really matter. It's the distance that's the main part here. And also the older hjulmotorer that's in 230 ACX machines, they have a smaller inside bearing and a large outside. So I thought it should be a safe option, and really guess so. I know so. So that's the difference, and that's what's good with this kit. So a lot of talking. Sorry about that. Then it's time to install one bearing here. This side we don't. With casted surface we don't we don't use a bearing. We only use bearing here, this side. So, and then I take a good size socket here to push it in. This case is 13 socket, fits perfectly. And then you push it in the vise. You can hammer it in, but the vise is good. Then you don't have to use so much violence. So now it's seated in the bottom here. So now it's sitting flush with the surface. Yes, so far. Now we have to we take this out demonstration wise, and now we have to take away this. It's time to change the axle. And I don't know. Maybe you can see here. It's you see how it looks. It's time to push it out, but here we have to be a little bit careful because this is sintered material, so it's a metal powder that's pressed under high temperature and pressure. So we want to be a little bit careful with this. Don't stress it too much. Try to, now when we take this away, I'm going to use the vise, and you have to have the vise near to this, so you don't have it outside, because could be that it could break, so we don't want that. So I set it so it's good like this, and I take this. You can take some driver tool or something, or long bolt, but not so long because it could bend, so it must be stiff too. I take this 5mm hex and this, and push it in the middle, and I hope it goes out. Yeah. So out with the old one, old shaft. Now it could be a good thing to take this away. Now we don't have some much things in the way, so we can push this out really easy. Because if you do it afterwards, you can harm the shaft. It's better to do it this way. That's my learnings. And now we take the next tool. I prepared this 3mm hex, and also this is really good for this too. So now you can see clear. So, and but it's a sintered material, so it's always good to have something near the pins so you don't stress the material too much. So we don't want to change this because it's a custom part. It's really hard to make new like this. So now I take some brake cleaner here, clean this up. I actually got one axle one time that was a little bit too big from a prototype axle, not from myself, but another guy did one axle for me that he thought I could get, but it was actually a little bit too big in this end, so it split this to one hole, so that was not the best. But if you know some Husqvarna deal or something, you can always get used motor if they're nice. Sometimes they don't want to help at all, and that's it's a shame, I think. Now it's time to push this in, these new pins. Now you can fasten the pin a little bit so it's pretty straight. I don't like this hammering and stuff, so it's better to press in this in the vise, so then you have a little bit more control. If you hammer it in, it could crack, so it's better to push it in. Then it's in the bottom here. Oops. So this takes some time to do this properly, but then you have a good working motor later. So you have I hope you have saved a lot of cash to do something more interesting with. For me, it's a really nice feeling to be able to do things like this by myself. To get spare parts like this, it's really nice. When I first started, it couldn't be found anywhere, so I had to do it myself. Good. Now we have a new axle. To be sure here that it sits good, I clean this end. This is, it's I try to do the best I can, but it's always good with some I take some Loctite. I put the Loctite on the shaft, so it 100% that it will bite. It's a pretty good tight fit, so it shouldn't be any problems, but better safe than sorry. We don't want to do this again. You see what I do. Then we have to get this straight here, and I have a 8mm socket to push between these pins, but I did this on purpose to put this on first, because I have this, and if I use this, I push in the middle. If you push with a big socket outside, it's, as I said, it's a material that is brittle. This powder metal is brittle, so it could be that you could split it if you do the other way, but I think it could be okay only pressing directly on it. But if you push in the center, you don't stress it with any bending forces. Yeah, and this I use to not get any press marks from. This is really rugged, so I was thinking, how do I do this? This is a good way. Old or new building thing. Yeah, press to the, you feel that it's not too much, but when it bottoms out. So clean out the Loctite. Now should be good go. I hope you understand. I haven't done any instructions yet, but not that complicated. But it's always good to have some guidance. And now I think you're happy when I when I show how I was thinking to do it. So now this is the bearing housing. Now normal wise I use Loctite on the axles when it's a little bit worn, but now it's fresh and clean. So now it's only now it's only to assemble it correctly. And yeah, one more thing. Now it's time for this special adapter that I made. Hope you like it, and hope you like my thinking. You have to assemble the bearings that's in the kit to this plate. I take a socket. It's a normal. I don't want to hurt this surface, so I do like this. It's a normal socket, 1/2 inch, and it's perfect fit for this bearing. So now it's pressed into this. Now this works together. This is fitting together. So this is the holes for. Yeah, it's towards the plastic motor holder. So this should line up with these holes. Then you have holes so that this plastic could fit into this like this. Yeah, like this. So you can take some grease in between here. Then you fill it out a little bit with grease, and it's a little bit extra lubricant in the future. Shouldn't harm, I think, but I don't do it now. But it could be a tip for you. These holes should align. It's this hole and the small hole here. So if these line up, then the bolts should be able to like this. Should fit. And to be sure, I don't think it's a problem to this. It's really tight fit, so it shouldn't be any problems. But if you want to be certain, you can take a little bit Loctite between these surfaces, a little dot on each side. Then it's locked together with some, like glue, so to say. Then this is, we can push this together now on the vise. So now here we have the new bearing unit, so to say, and it's many millimeters space between the bearings. I think it's really nice. So now we have these parts ready. We'll take out the screws again, and it's time to assemble the axle with a housing, and I hope, if I've been thinking correctly, it should be working. Ta-da! Really good solution, I think. So good. Now it's time to take away this old worn out seal. It's really bad, you see. It's 3 millimeter wide, but totally gone. It's nothing on it anymore. It's hole is like 9 millimeters and really oval. It could happen on the normal machines too. Now it's time to show how to do this too. This is the seal I done. It's so to see, but it's double. It's like a normal O-ring or normal radial seal. But I turn it the other way. Husqvarna has it with a lip like this out, but I think it doesn't feel correct. So I put it on the other way. Now I licked a little bit on it to to get it to fit easy. So like that, and there are room for this extra 1 millimeter. Like mine is 4 millimeters, normally is 3, but I think it's better to have double seals. Now it's shielding from the environment. I'm not an expert in this, but seems like a better option because we want to have it working in a long time. So that's really nice. So this it should be seated. It's like 1 millimeter gap here, then it's correct. But this groove here should align with this these two things here. This also is a sign of the older motor. If you see this, you know it's underneath the machine. You see, you know you have the older motor. But before assembly here, I always take some grease. It's better to take plenty grease because because it's much tighter. This seal than normal is really loose, and this is really tight fit. But it needs some lubrication, and it's never wrong to have a little extra grease here on the inside. You can take a little bit more than I have. Yes. You don't have to have these C-clips tools. You can do it by hand because it's really really easy to do. You don't have to have any fancy tools. Let me see. Yep, that's correct. Sorry about that. Everything can happen. As long as you know that you're doing the wrong thing, it's good. I think it's a really good solution, this, and you have a really strong bearing solution. And you don't have to have this. You can do it with Loctite on the bearing, between the bearing and the shaft, but this is a more real fix. It's not. Other one is a little bit of MacGyver solution, but yeah, it works. I like that too, but if it's a good priced alternative that's even better, this is really stiff. You can't feel anything. So then we take some Loctite here on this to be sure that it's biting, but clean it first with some brake clean or brake clean as I did, and then it's really ready to assemble. And then I put it together like this. I don't have time to clean it so much, but if it would be my machine, I would maybe take some time to do that. So now it's ready to be pressed, and I use this. You can use many things, but it's always good to don't stress this. As I said, this part, it's not the best material, but it's better if you can put something that pushes directly on the shaft. You don't have any forces in this flange. So that's really to be pressed in. Here you have to have a little bit of feeling. You have to push on the center, so you don't push, as I said, on this. And then it's time to align this up and push it down. So now it sits on this, and it's really stiff. You can't feel any play in the bearings. Normal wise, it's always some play because they sit so near each other. It's it must be like that because of the geometry. So really good. Now it's time to assemble the rest. Now I could have cleaned all these gears up, but now I use mine because it saves some time. And then I take this grease bag and I only cut the end of the bag, and I can grease this up here, these pins. If you don't do that, it could be a problem with you put a little bit inside too with seizure, and you don't want that. It's better to have some grease. Now it's really fresh, new and fresh. Yeah, a little bit of grease here in the middle. Don't over exaggerate. Now it's time for cleaning. Good thing for cleaning is to have this toothbrush. My wife always buys new for the kids, so it's always plenty of good toothbrush over. And now remember, there's metal debris here it's a lot of metal left from the gears inside, so it's really good to do this properly. And you can do some brake cleaning. It's always good. And then you use this special tool. You have to have this special tool. This blade from an Automower. It's really good. And you can clean each groove here. Clean it out to take away metal particles. You should look to the light and you can see if it's some metal particles left. Now I'm cheating a little bit because it takes time, but you do it properly because you want to have it running many years. And it's time for the reassemble. They install this. So time to take away this sign gear. It's really worn out. Then I use next special tool, the old Torx T20 bit, but you can't have too big things because you can crack this. You don't want to do this when you do it. Then you could crack it because this is not a good material, so you have to have this in the middle here so you don't break it. So now I pushed out the old gear. And some cleaning. Always good to clean inside the hole too with some brake cleaning. it's time to push in the new gear. Clean that a little bit too with brake cleaner. Put a little bit Loctite on it. Better safe than sorry. Of course, clean this out a little bit too. So it's time for assembly. Then you push it like this. Put it in. And you take this 8mm socket again. So clean the excessive brake clean out, Loctite out. Now it's time for the separating shim. Maybe a little bit more grease than this, but not much, because it's not the grease that's the problem. It's the more. It's a lot part full of the grease, but the large portion is that should be enough, plenty enough. But it's the misalignment from the bearings and the grease together. So now we have this really good, but most times you can reuse this 4 gears too if the holes is not that big. So now we can hold this in the vise a little bit, but not much, because it can crack, as I said before. Loctite on all the screws to be sure that it won't let go. And if you should break one of these 4, you could do with only 3, because it's not that. Maybe only 2 could be enough also, but you always aim to have all screws, so to say. So now it's hand tight, and I take a little bit more of the hand tight, quarter turn maybe, something like that. A little bit more. We don't want to stress this too much, but can't be too loose either. So now the gearbox is ready. Now don't forget to take the metal plate. put it on with some grease, a little bit inside. You don't have to have so much, but now it's in best position. Now it's centered. Now it's now it's a little bit greasy here. I think it should be really enough, but you take a little bit more. If you take too much, the grease could go into the electric motor, and that sometimes happens. And then you can get the error code on the machine, like overheated engine motor or something like that. And then it's not the gears, but probably the gears is worn too. But then you have to split the motor up. To split this motor and clean between the you can see here some grease residue here, this grease bowl here, and due to the magnetism, I guess, the grease gets pulled into the bearing here inside between the rotor and stator. And then you can open here, crack this open. I have another video showing that. It's exactly the same principle there. Then you bend these tabs and you push this, smash it into the wooden bench or something. Then it pops out. Then you can clean, and then you put it together and hammer this down again, and you close it. Then you get rid of the grease. And sometimes, not often, it's really seldom. I only did it one time. If this bearing gets worn out, if it seizes, you can grind down this. You take down this aluminium plate here, and then you can grind down the metal to get the bearing out, because it's impossible to take the bearing inside. You destroy the windings on the motor. Then you grind that down with an angle grinder, a little bit smooth on the edges when you're taking the shaft out, and then you push a new one, put a new one bearing in, same bearing as in the small bearing in the gearbox, but you take Loctite, glue it with Loctite, and then it should be good to go. So everything is really fixable, so to say. Now this is a little bit stiff. This is okay, but I think it's some grease in it, but I don't do it now because we don't have time for it. But I give it a little bit to clean. And this rubber, if you see some rubber thing laying around, this is rubber to lock the screws, because otherwise it's like a thread lock, but it's a mechanical thread lock. It's a rubber pressing in, so it can't turn out, so it can't get loose, this aluminium piece from the steel. And if you break a screw, you have to drill it out almost all the way in, otherwise we will break these tabs. If you try to bend, I've done it sometimes, you crack it straight off here, because it's also sintered material. It's really bad material. And then best you can do in that time is to take away this aluminium piece, put it in the oven, 200 degrees Celsius. Then you burn out the Loctite, and then maybe you can take a drill from the other side and drill in it. And if you're lucky, you can center it, or when the Loctite is gone, it should unscrew itself, because it's not a bad thread. It's only Loctite that's holding it. So, yeah, some tips from the coach. Now it's time to reassemble. Now I think it's, if I remember correctly, yeah, as I said, the washer should be inside this, not here, because it could be out of center and not, it could be jammed in between here and causing issues. So better to set it with a little bit, put with grease and assemble like this. Sorry for a really long video, but it's really good, I think, to have all same. Now it's assembled again. You couldn't imagine this could be happening with these bad gears inside and the bad axle, but now it's really good. Now it's time for some Loctite and screws, and then we're finished with this motor. Sorry for babbling around and talking too much, but I hope you like it in some way. You can scroll and go forward if you don't want to see everything. So a little bit Loctite on each screw, a little bit only. It's a much better screws. You can, if you want to re-grease after some years, you can do it without hammering on a bit. It should be possible anyhow. Here is the T10 Torx bit. So now we have resurrected this gearbox from the dead. Really good. It's like new, but even better with this bearing improvement kit. And don't forget to clean out the O-ring. You can easily be reusing that again. When you're done the job and everything is okay, then you do a motor test in the menus. On the older machines it could be done pretty easy. Then you go into the menu, you press 7 and 9, long time, go to this wrench, and you go into test mode, and you get to motors, and it should push the stop button or something, and you push here, then it's ready to go, and then you go to wheel motors, and then you push the speed up, and then you look at the current draw, and should be like 250 max current. If it's something like that, it should be okay. Then you can check after a day work with the machine, then it's should be under 150 something. 200 is no major issue here. Yeah, to conclude, thank you very much for watching. I hope you liked seeing this getting a new life. I think it's a good thing. Not always needed, but makes a really good solution in the long run. So I'm proud of it, and I feel that you people are really pushing me to do better things, so I try to find some new better things to do everywhere. I have some other products I have for the smaller motors in the Gardenas and the smaller Husqvarnas. I have gear kits that's really nice. They always get some wear. Most of the machines get wear in the outer parts of the gearbox, and then I have kit for that, and I have some plastic gears. Right now they're out of stock, but otherwise I have it. But most things is coming. I'm trying to do new things, so I can fill every gap that is possible, that's needed. I have some other products. I have these skid plates with only one hole in instead of 3. The positive effects on that is that less sound. You don't get that much wear if you're going over some apples or something. It's only one hole, so it's not that hard for the cutting plate. It's old design that Husqvarna used before on the 220s and 230s and the old 210s. So I think it's a good idea to only have one, and also it's a little bit smaller diameter on the discs for the smaller machines and the bigger Husqvarnas. It's like the newer Husqvarna discs that has been coming up. That makes the blade sticking out a little bit more. It was like that before on the old 320s and 330s. The blade sticked out a little bit more. So it's a proven concept even with a smaller plastic disc that is used on that. The only difference on the new discs is that the plastic discs is a little bit bigger in diameter outside of the blades, but I can see it makes some difference. So I have those. It's pretty popular. repair kits, all different service parts on my homepage. So check out klipparservice.se, and I try to have most I feel is needed. I do some services sometimes, and yeah, it's good stuff. I try to have good stuff, and if I don't, tell me what I need to have, or if I have something that's not so good, tell me that too, and then maybe I can improve. Yeah. So check out Clipper Service, and thank you for watching. Now you know how to do this improvement with the new axle and the new bearing system. So now you should be able to do the work. Thank you very much.